If you're anything like me when I first started out, you might find reverb and delay very confusing. Reverb is confusing in its own way because there are so many options. When it comes to both delay and reverb, they can start to sound messy really quickly, especially when you add too much. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up those reverbs and delays properly, some hot tips to make sure they don't get too messy, and I'm even going to throw in some bonus tips at the end of this video showing you how to use sends to make things sound wider.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside.
If you're watching this video, then you're most likely a musician or audio engineer just like me. And I need you to do a couple of things for me. 1, subscribe to the channel. 2, like the video. And 3, you're gonna need somewhere to store your files. At Boombox, not only can you do all of the basic stuff, but because it's made for musicians by musicians, we also added features such as timestamp feedback as text or voice notes. Voice notes being incredibly useful for when you want to add melodies or rhythms which simply can't be written out. At Boombox, you can also make great looking playlists, which are perfect for pitching to managers, demos, and sharing with clients. On top of that, we have even better looking artist profiles, which are perfect for finding your next collaborator or making yourself discoverable. Because you can put in your different skills, location, and tools that you use, you can easily find the next person you might end up working with. If you don't believe me, go give it a try completely for free. Sign up today and get 4 GB of storage. Link is in the description below. We're going to start today's video by taking a listen to this vocal. You'll see it separated into red, yellow, and pink. I want you to listen to how it changes as it goes through the different colors.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely. Underneath the moonlight, it's so perfect. And I started thinking we deserve this.
I want you to comment down below with what you think the main differences are between these 3 sections. I'll tell you what I think. Number 1 is very dry. Number 2 just has a reverb. And number 3 has a few other effects which are adding to the value of the performance. Now I know those effects may sound a little exaggerated, and yes, I've overdone them slightly for the sake of this tutorial, but it also works really well with the track. And I'm going to play everything in context so you understand what I'm talking about at the end of this video. So here we have a fantastic vocal sent in by one of my clients called Demi. Thank you so much for letting us use your amazing track, Liberate Me. I started by applying compression, EQ, de-essing, and a little more to this vocal to get it sounding the way it does. If you want to learn how to do that, I did do another video which I'll link above. Let's take a listen.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside.
So now you know what we're working with. First of all, we've got to set up a send. Now you want to do this on the left-hand side. Every DAW will be different, and we're looking for an empty send without any effects. Now, on this channel that it creates, we're going to add our first reverb. We're going to go for Reverb by Logic, and I'm actually going to use the default setting here, except for I'm going to bring the decay down to 0.8 seconds. Notice how the dry is at 0 and the wet is at 100%. This is especially important when using sends, because what we're doing is we're creating one dry channel, which is our main channel that we already heard, and then we're sending to a new channel which just has the effect on it. So this is going to be 100% wet. If we increase this dry signal, we're going to get a double up on the dry signal coming from the original channel and this one. So we want to avoid that at all costs. To increase the amount of reverb that we want, all we have to do is increase the level of the send.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
Having a send set up gives us so much more control and stops us from compromising the dry signal, which we already like the sound of. You can apply this, by the way, to anything. It doesn't have to be vocals. I'm just using vocals as an example because that's what most people tend to apply reverb and delay to. I've set up a room reverb here. This is emulating a studio room, somewhere where you might record drums or guitar or even vocals. That's a little bit larger, has short reflections, and adds a bit of vibe. The reason why I'm using a room reverb is because it adds sustain and brings the dry recording back to life a little bit. It's important to note that I'm also using an EQ in this reverb. Now, if your reverb doesn't have a built-in EQ, you can always set one up afterwards and then just do it yourself like this. And I'm just taking out some of the low frequencies and the high frequencies to make the reverb feel a little cleaner. When you have a lot of low and high frequencies, the low frequencies will make it muddy, and the high frequencies will add too much sibilance, too much of the My second send that I've set up is another reverb, but a little bit longer. This is a chamber reverb. Now, back in the day, before digital reverbs existed, they actually had real chambers, like tiled rooms in the basement of studios where they would get a speaker, send out the signal from the control room in the studio, and then record it with two microphones in that room, picking up the sound of the room and the reflections. You'll notice that this is longer at 1.2 seconds, adding more sustain to the vocal signal. Again, I have the dry at 0%, the wet at 100, and if I go to details, I also have an EQ.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
Again, we're just looking for a touch of this to add some sustain to the vocal. By blending shorter reverbs, we can start to get a more professional and polished sound. Now it's time for the fun reverb, the long one. I have a third reverb set up here with a vocal hall preset, and this is an emulation of a concert hall. If you've ever seen a photo of a concert hall, you'll know that these are giant spaces in which a lot of orchestras and classical musicians play. They're designed with a combination of wood and soft furnishing material so that the sound reflects and gives every listener an incredible sonic experience. We're essentially placing our signal, aka the vocalist, in this hall and capturing some of that effect. You'll notice that the decay is over double the length of what the chamber reverb was, adding a lot more sustain.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free.
Gives this really beautiful atmospheric effect, but when we add too much, it starts to get messy. If you're like me and you like to add a lot of reverb, here's a trick to overcome that messiness. When we add too much reverb, we lose focus on the vocal, but by adding sidechain compression on the send channel, we can start to control that. So I've got this compressor, you can copy the settings if you like, and then I'm feeding in my lead vocal here. So I've got liberate lead vocal full. What this means is when the lead vocal, the dry signal plays, the compressor is going to react, bringing down the volume of the long reverb. Let's dial it in so you see what I mean.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
So the reverb ducks out the way by coming down in volume when the lead vocal is present, and then the volume comes back up in between the gaps where the lead vocal isn't. If I turn this compressor on and off now, you're going to notice a huge difference between a very messy reverb sound and a very clean one.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
To finish this send off, I've also added another EQ with some more low end roll off, some more high end roll off to get rid of those S's, and I've done a dip at 1K where the vocal is also very present.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
By blending these three reverbs, we have an almost perfect combination. If you're using reverb, you're probably going to use delay, but there's no need to use them together, and you can use one or the other. If you're not familiar with delay, what it does is it takes the signal and repeats it at a pattern of your choosing. Right now, I have it at a quarter note, which means it's repeating every beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If I had it at a half, it'd be 1, 2, 1, 2. So essentially, this is slower and this is faster. The feedback dictates how long those repeats go on for. So is it just going 1, 2, 3, 4? Or is it going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? And the reason I've chosen this delay, which by the way doesn't come with Logic, it's a free plugin by Baby Audio called Baby Comeback, is because it has a built-in ducker. And this is doing exactly the same thing as what the compressor was doing on our long reverb, but we don't have to set it up because it's already got it internally.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely. Underneath the moonlight, it's so perfect.
You can hear the rhythm that it's adding to the vocal, filling in those spaces where it's quiet again, but in a different way to the reverb. Now, my hot tip with delay is to add a reverb afterwards. Let me show you why. On this delay, I've got the dry at 0, just like we do on all our other send effects, and the wet at 100%. After the delay, I'm adding a reverb, but one thing worth noticing is that the dry is at 76% and the wet is at 27%. The reason is I don't want the full effect of the reverb. We already have the full effect of the echo, and now I just want a sprinkle of this reverb, just a touch. What this does is it diffuses those repeats ever so slightly by making them feel more atmospheric and ambient. Otherwise, the echo is quite dry and upfront. Let me show you what I mean.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free. Illuminates indefinitely.
And so by adding a bit of reverb after the delay, we can diffuse those repeats a little bit, creating a bit of contrast between the dry signal and the send. And finally, my bonus tips on how to make the signal wider using sends. First of all, you could do something as simple as setting up a chorus. I'm just using the stock chorus from Logic here with the default setting.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free, illuminates indefinitely.
Another method for widening, which I also like to blend in, is by using a tape slap delay with different timings on the left and right signal. I'm using the Logic stereo delay. The wet signal is at 100% again, and I've turned tempo sync off. I've got the left at 96 milliseconds and the right at a slower rate of 106 milliseconds. Add too much of this and you're going to start sounding like Elvis Presley, but just the right amount can add the width that you need.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free. Illuminates indefinitely.
I'm going to play back the vocal and slowly add all the sends that we've just been playing with so you can see where it started and where we've ended up.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free. Illuminates indefinitely. Underneath the moonlight, it's so perfect. And I started thinking we deserve this.
Again, it may sound like a lot to you, but have a listen in context. This is a section of the song where there's not a lot going on and the lead vocal feels really dominant. It's also a dance track, which means that more effects actually work in this genre.
I'm taking back what's mine. After the storm, there's light inside of me. It sets me free. Illuminates indefinitely. Underneath the moonlight, it's so perfect. And I started thinking we deserve this. And there's no turning back, this is our life. It's about damn time. Maybe this is alright.
When the vocal's dry, it doesn't even feel like it belongs there. But with all the effects, all of a sudden, you have rhythm, you have atmosphere, you have a lot more feeling. So that's how I like to use sends. I hope you found that useful. Comment down below with how you like to set up your sends or what effects you like to set up on your sends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Welcome to Boombox, the home of collaboration. It's been a pleasure as always, and I'll see you very soon. Peace.